February 1989, Moscow.
Oh, come on.
A man named Hank Rogers lands in the Soviet Union without an official invitation. He is a Dutch video game entrepreneur, and he is terrified. He knows that doing business here as a foreigner is dangerous, especially when you are uninvited. But he has no choice. He is chasing the rights to a video game that he believes will change the world.
You don't need a Tetris shop.
Tetris.
Have you been Tetrisized?
And it's not just in Russia, all over the world.
Years later, many would recall this trip as one of the most unusual business ventures during the Cold War. He takes a taxi straight to a government building to meet a mysterious organization called Elorg. He walks past guards and cold stares, clutching a video game cartridge in his pocket. He has no idea how tense the meeting would be, with the confusing Soviet licensing rules looming over him. When he finally sits down with the Soviet officials, he pulls out the cartridge to impress them. The director, Nikolai Belikov, stared at it with a mixture of suspicion and authority. He tells Rogers that this game is illegal. The Soviets never gave permission for it to be made. Rogers realizes he might not just lose the deal, he might be in serious trouble. But to understand how a simple game could cause an international incident, we have to go back 5 years to a dusty office in the Soviet Academy of Sciences. It was June 1984. Alexei Pajitnov was a software engineer working on an ancient computer called the Electronica 60. This machine was a dinosaur. It didn't even have a graphical interface. But Alexei loved puzzles. He was obsessed with a physical board game called Pentaminos, which used 5 block shapes. He decided to code a version of it, but he simplified the shapes to 4 blocks. He called them Tetraminos. Because the computer screen couldn't display images, Alexei had to use brackets and spaces to create the blocks. It looked primitive, but it was magic. He called it Tetris, combining the Greek word for 4, tetra, with his favorite sport, tennis. The game was so addictive that his colleagues couldn't stop playing it. It was eventually banned in some offices because it destroyed productivity. But since people in the Soviet Union couldn't own intellectual property, Alexei couldn't sell it. He just gave it away on floppy disks. It went viral before going viral was even a thing. But while Alexei was happy just sharing his game, a British businessman in Hungary was about to accidentally start a war over it. Robert Stein saw the game during a trip to Hungary. He smelled money. He sent a message to Moscow offering to buy the rights. Alexei sent a reply that basically said, "Maybe, let's talk." Stein, however, treated this polite reply as a signed contract. He started selling the rights to the game to massive companies in the West, including Microsoft and Spectrum Holobyte. He was selling something he didn't actually own. Soon, Tetris was everywhere. It hit computers in the US and UK, marketed with red boxes and Soviet imagery to play off the Cold War tension. It sold 100,000 copies in a year. Alexei, the creator, saw $0 from this. But while the real chaos was starting when Nintendo decided to launch a new device called the Game Boy, Hank Rogers, the guy from the beginning of our story, realized Tetris was the perfect killer app for a handheld system. He tried to buy the rights from Stein, but Stein was ignoring him. So, Rogers decided to fly to Moscow himself to get the rights directly from the source. And that brings us back to that terrifying meeting room. Back in that room in 1989, Rogers is sweating. Elorg, the Soviet agency in charge of video game licensing, is watching every move. The officials tell him the cartridge isn't covered by the existing computer-only license. Rogers, thinking fast, explains that he didn't know. He plays the honest card. He shows them exactly how the business works, and the tension slowly eases. At the same time, Robert Stein is also in Moscow, facing Elorg over the rights he thought he controlled. The officials clarify which rights were valid and which were not. Stein signs a new document confirming the scope of computer rights, unintentionally leaving the console rights open. With the console and handheld rights still available, Elorg grants them to Nintendo. It's a huge win. Nintendo quickly acts to stop competing versions, forcing Atari to halt production and recall many of its Tetris cartridges. Some of these recalled cartridges survive today and have become rare collector's items. But while corporations battled over the rights, something even stranger was happening to the human brain. The Game Boy version launched and sold 35 million copies. It was a monster hit. But players started reporting something weird. After playing for hours, they would close their eyes and still see the blocks falling. They would look at brick walls or grocery aisles and mentally try to fit items together. In 1994, a journalist named Jeffrey Goldsmith called this the Tetris Effect. It was literally rewiring how people saw the world. Meanwhile, Alexei finally moved to America in 1991. But because of the old Soviet rules, he still wasn't making money on his own invention. It wasn't until 1996, when the original rights deal expired, that the rights finally reverted to him. He formed the Tetris Company with his old friend, Hank Rogers. Finally, the man who built the game was getting paid for it. But just when everyone thought Tetris had peaked, a 13-year-old boy did something that was supposed to be impossible. For decades, people thought Tetris had a limit. The game gets faster and faster until it's humanly impossible to react. But in the 2010s, players developed new techniques like hyper-tapping and rolling, where they tap the back of the controller to move pieces faster than the game allows. In January 2024, a kid named Willis Gibson, known as Blue Scuddy, was playing the original NES version. He played so long and so fast that he reached level 157. The game's code literally couldn't handle it. The score counter glitched, the colors went crazy, and the game crashed. This is called a kill screen. Before this, only AI bots had ever triggered it. Willis became the first human being to officially beat Tetris. Tetris survived the Cold War, legal battles, and changing technology. It proves that you don't need fancy 4K graphics or complex stories to hook people. Sometimes, all you need are 4 blocks and a place to make them fit.